Well, it's a good morning, a Friday morning, one that promises to be rather nice and sunny here in the valleys of South Wales. And for this particular recording today, I'm hoping to get this particular drawing finished. I don't know whether I will in about an hour, because that's the time I allocate for these videos. I'll see how it goes, because what I may do is speed bits up, especially if I go quiet, but who knows. I'm still learning stuff. I've got a long way to go to learn about videos and other things. And I've had a lot of learning to do this week, but that's a different story. What I thought I'd do before I start drawing, though, is to show you this particular notebook briefly. It's a bit battered now. I've had it for a couple of years, and it's one of a few I've got, and they're just plain dot grid notebooks. This one's by Claire Fontaine. Just to make it very clear, not paid, not sponsored, not given any products by any company for anything you may see in any of my videos. It's just in case you're interested. For me, it's whatever works, and you know, I like Claire Fontaine, I like the like terms, I like dingbats, I like Tinkerpads, I think they're called. All sorts of dot grid notebooks. It's just whatever attracts me at the time. But this one has been with me for a while, and it's what I call my visual vocabulary. It starts with apart from something that's got, I don't know what about on it, a quote: "Inspiration exists, but it has to find you working," from Picasso. And that's very true. And then it's a quick one here, but this is my visual vocabulary, my visual dictionary, the place where I keep things like favourite patterns. So here's some Zentangle patterns. In fact, there's quite a few of them, as you can see, all neatly arranged in little boxes and very neatly drawn. Then I go on to things like some botanicals. Again, these ones have been found from all over. Just things I've seen, things I've drawn, inspiration from embroidery patterns, from so on. Nature, I do like crystals, and I rather like feathers from time to time. Under the Sea, I did a colouring book a few years ago, a couple of years ago. In fact, a couple of years ago, I've done two for Under the Sea. And I collected lots of motifs and shapes of patterns for things that can be found under the sea, on the seashore. So there's there, sometimes a clip page. I've got a clip there, so it's a funky fish. I do like a bug. These are rather cute bugs as a start. And then I created a book a couple of years ago called A Dangle a Day, with dangle designs in. And my original idea for the next few pages was to put ideas of dangles in here. And it just never happened, really. I think I was doing it while I did the book. And here are some ideas for some new dangles. A lot of them sort of like inspiration from jewellery and beading, things like that. These are all kinds of other botanicals, from all kinds of sources. I can't remember where, but just the basic shapes, ideas. I know Botanicum was the inspiration for some of these. There's a lovely, lovely book of botanical illustrations. It comes in a big format. And I found it in a second-hand bookshop in Hay-on-Wye. Hay-on-Wye, if you don't know about it, which I'm guessing a lot of you won't, is this lovely town on the sort of like Welsh-English border. And it's stuffed full of bookshops. It's got other lovely little shops, and there's a shop that does quite nice ice cream. But bookshops, second-hand bookshops, and some new ones, but mainly second-hand. And it's just so interesting to go and look around, and I rarely come away without a couple of books. And in a newer centre there's actually the most gorgeous crystal shop called Satori, and I rarely go in there without buying some jewellery or crystals or other pretty stuff, because I like crystals and jewellery and other pretty stuff for no other reason. Trees, I love fungi. Capsules, seeds and pods, these make an appearance often in my drawings, and I think you've seen them here. And then we go back to favourite patterns, and again there may be repeats in there may not be. It's Christmas themes, get more favourite patterns. I did start keeping an index at the beginning of this, a la bullet journal, Bujo style, but it just didn't happen. More abstract botanicals, some colour here. I think I was just doing stuff. The colour really brings things to life, doesn't it? And monsters, kawaii stuff, cute stuff, more doodles to fill things in. If you know my work, I did a book a couple of years ago called Doodle Worlds, and I sort of like drifted into the realms of doodles, and I do from time to time. But I started collecting stuff for that. Some more botanicals. Art Nouveau. I love Art Nouveau. I love arts and crafts. And I've got a bit of a thing for Art Deco. And I've recently discovered brutalist architecture's quite interesting in a bizarre kind of way. But I ramble on. So this is an example of my books, one of my visual dictionaries. And I do want to go back to add this one. The problem is I really don't have much space left in it. So I have a bit of a quandary because I like one book to look at. But I'm beginning to think I need to start a new one where I put patterns, I'm not collecting, but patterns and motifs. There's even words there. Inspirational words, encouragement, dream big, let your light shine, be curious. I think those came from my days of dabbling in mixed media. But I still like to use little things like that from time to time, or quotes in my work. Anyway, I'm thinking of going back or getting a new book where I can start sort of like almost putting in my favourite, most go-to patterns. This week I started a course by Patricio Bateo on Domestica. It's called The Character Factory. And I've only done the first couple of videos and worked my way through them. And it's really interesting because one of the things he says there is about how this helps to build up a kind of artistic calligraphy. Like calligraphers practice so that shapes of letters and lines and motifs in their work become second nature. They don't have to think about it. It's muscle memory. It's muscle and mind memory. And they work hand in hand. No pun intended. And it's the same for art. And when I heard that, I thought, well, that's exactly what I've been doing for years. Is that I've been building up this vocabulary of my own, sort of like letter forms for calligraphers, that gets incorporated into my work. Every time again, now and again, you have to try something new and something different. And that's where my little book comes in. Sometimes I've only collected these motifs and I've never used them. They're just there to spark ideas. Other times I will look in the book, sometimes quite randomly. I'll just open a page, see what's there and add to my design. And I think I might do that today. We'll see how it goes. So I just thought you might like to see that because that's my way of doing it. I've tried other ways. I've tried folders with ATC cards in, or coin pockets that take a 2" by 2" piece of paper. And they just irritate me after a while. I think, oh, that's a really good idea. But it isn't, because I've already done a lot of the work. It's sort of like when I'm at my low or places where I'm not comfortable with my art or I'm frustrated with it. It's where I go back to. And then afterwards, when I get my mojo back, I go, oh, there we are. I think I just need to work in a sketchbook constantly rather than, you know, other things or in these little books. So I am going to open my book at a pattern. Let me have a look. I am not going to open it quite at random because I'm going to look for something very quickly that may just fit in with what I'm doing here. Because I've got lots of different motifs. I know what I'm going to do. Because I think, possibly, I think I need arches going this way. Because that it would balance the design out, sort of. I've got this thing about having balanced designs. So I want to do some other patterns that go in, will fit into an arch nicely. Like this one, or this one's interesting when it's done this way, or, you know, either using where these lines join that way or where they connect that way to make a series of hexagons as well. So perhaps I'll do both, but on different arches. That sounds like a good idea to me. I'm back to Unipin pens this week. As I've said, I'm not paid in any way, shape or form for any products I use. They're all bought up my own hard-earned money. And so I will start by creating some arches. I suspect that I'll have arches here to balance these out, and then I'll have a section here and a section up here that I'll want to fill with botanicals. If you're interested, this is an 03 nib, which seems to be quite consistent with the other lines on the page. I think I've just used loads of different pens this week on this drawing, and ultimately it's not really important as long as there's not a huge difference in the thickness of lines. That's quite nice. That'll work nicely. I've got space enough to add a third one under there. That's a bit of a bizarre edge there, but it's okay. It will disappear into the whole design and won't be noticed. And failing that, I can always clean it up digitally when I scan it in, should I choose to do so. Talking of digital art, I've said I love to draw on paper. I usually scan my work in, and then if I want to add, I need to clean it up, then it saves so much time on editing, especially when I'm working for publishers, because it means that I don't have to completely redraw an image or work with whiteout and things like that. So I often draw things on paper and then either digitally redraw if it's a sketch, or use the actual scanned image, and I'm able to alter that digitally. There's lots of different ways I like to work. But this week at the weekend, oh my gosh, was I thrown a complete curveball, or was it Monday? Do you know what? I don't actually know. I think it might have been last Sunday, where I went to log on to my favourite art package, which is Autodesk Sketchbook Pro. It's not called Pro now. I can't remember what it's called, Enterprise or something. I think it was for a while, which is the paid version of Sketchbook. And I know that there's a free version. I've known that for quite a while. And I've tried it, and because I have to work at specific dots per inch, and this one only works at 100 dots per inch, I avoided it, and I didn't like the particular tool layout on it. It just didn't work for me as much as the Elite one did. And at the time, the tools are more powerful in the Elite or the Pro or whatever it was. Well, I went to use it Sunday to do some work, and lo and behold, it was no longer available. I couldn't access it. They've stopped licensing it or making it available for people, and the only version of Sketchbook that's available is the freeware one, the one I'm not particularly keen on. So, flap and panic time. I tried the free one out, got terribly frustrated and upset because I couldn't do what I would normally be able to do in terms of editing images. You can't edit images in it with contrast and so on. And so the beauty of the Sketchbook version I was using was that I could do a lot of things in it without having to use multiple packages. So I didn't have to go to Affinity Photo or similar to adjust contrast, to get rid of pencil lines or the blue lines if I've been using gridded paper to draw on, because I do that from time to time. It depends what kind of art I'm doing and how I want it laid out. And so I thought, what am I going to do? So I thought I'd have a look at Affinity Photo, which I have on my computer. Oh, that's a big no-go. I could not work out. Great for editing photos, brilliant for that, but I could not get my head around doing anything vaguely artistic with it. So it was a okay, what else have I got? Oh yes, last summer I think it was, I bought Clip Studio Pro, which, like Affinity programs, is you buy once and you've got upgrades for the lifetime of the product, really, the lifetime of that particular name or whatever it is. So I thought, right, perhaps this, instead of being as upsetting as it is, because I'm human and humans basically don't like change generally, we find it disconcerting and upsetting, and yeah, but I thought, right, perhaps this is an opportunity for me, because new skills to be learned, new software package, one that could be more powerful in many ways than Sketchbook. It's going to take, it took me years to become comfortable with Sketchbook, with digital art, but perhaps it won't be so bad this time. That's actually quite a nice pattern in its own, isn't it? But we're going to do it this way. So I'd scanned in some drawings I'd done, one of which was in the pen, one of the pens I used last week, one of the Faber-Castell fine liners. And I'd managed to spill or drip water on it, and it had run, and I really needed to clean that up. And I found it a difficult process to begin with in Clip Studio Paint Pro, because I wasn't familiar with the package, so I was flipping back and forth between Affinity Photo and that and getting a bit frustrated, and suddenly it all just came together. I thought, oh, and then I started playing with brushes and colour, and I couldn't find a way to create a custom colour palette, and that took a couple of days for me to work it out with a bit of help from a tutorial online. I went, oh, it's that easy, except it's not that easy when the terms used are a bit obscure or hidden out the way. It's just becoming familiar with the language of the software. So, okay, I'm going to go down the middle of all of these first, because that will just help me. And yeah, they might be a bit wonky because I'm trying to do middle to middle, but middle to middle isn't going to be in a straight line because it's curved for arrangement there. There we go. That one too could be quite interesting. Not for me today. I'm going to do this. So it wasn't long before I worked out that, as frustrated as I'd been with the sudden termination of the service of Autodesk, it actually really became a wonderful opportunity. I tried some other packages as well. I had to look at Coral Painter, which I wasn't happy with, because all I got for, until I sorted it out, were notifications that my virus checker was out of date. It's not, it's in date. Trying to convince me to buy a different one, and that was only with the Norton, not Norton, but after I'd installed Coral Paint. I tried another one as well, but for the life of me I can't remember what it was, and that was deleted almost straight away because it was awful. On Coral Painter, it just kept freezing on me on my computer. No programs freeze on me generally in use. Yeah, Sketchbook used to if I was colouring something on the outer rings of a mandala or whatever, because you had a lot of work to do to repeat that around the circle. And I got used to that. It would be, take a couple of breaths, there we are, off we go again. And it could be the same if I was making adjustments to colours and so on. You just got used to it, It depended on the resolution of the image, the size of the image I was doing, and so on. But, not really a problem. So I, for something that's would be really quite expensive, and I was prepared to pay the money for Coral Painter. I was really disappointed with that. Whether it was because it was the trial version and things were deliberately throttled back to encourage you to, you know, part with your money. But it reminded me in many ways of Adobe Photoshop, and I don't get on with Adobe products at all. It's like, I had this conversation with somebody online the other day. I really don't get on with Apple products. My brain just doesn't work that way. Everything seems backwards to me, and it's always awkward to use. Even though I had an iPhone for a couple of years, I just couldn't get to grips with it or work it out. And I know there are people who love Apple, and that's fine. I have no issue with you if you like that or not. But it's like Adobe. There are people who love it and people who don't. Affinity is very similar, but it seems to be that bit more user-friendly in some way. Though I haven't really got to grips with using an Affinity Designer particularly. Affinity Publisher I use quite a bit, and I'll be using a lot more in the future. So, after wandering around other art programs, remembering that I had Clip Studio Paint Pro, I've settled on that one. I say for now, because I really don't know whether it will be just for now or whether it's something that I'll continue to use going forward. It ticks the boxes for things I want to do. I love the brushes and the textures they can achieve. And by brushes, I mean pens, pencils. They're all referred to as brushes digitally, if you didn't know. It's just the way things are set up. Oh, I missed that one there. So there we are. There's that one that is just two. It's the same pattern in a box. I think Zentangle would refer to that as a fragment. And all I've done is arrange them in different ways. I guess what would be fun is if I did one where I did them, alternated them as well. Have I got space for one? Of course I have, because it's my art, isn't it? So I can do as I wish. So let's draw another arcing arch here. So it's been an interesting week artistically, and digitally, but yeah, because we're going to finish that off like that, so that's why I've put those there. I'm not being very good with my pen placement this morning. Tired. Okie dokes. Right, so let's have a look here. Oh, I've lost, yeah, it doesn't matter. You'll say I've lost that line there. I've got to put that one in, but really, like so many other things, when your pattern's busy and these people come looking for errors and mistakes and blips, they won't find them because it'll be lost in the design, and you really won't notice it unless I've pointed it out to you, or you may just assume those blips are deliberate. So I deliberately left that line out there. I think I did. I might have done because I thought, oh, it's a little space. If I make it any less square, it'll look odder than not. Now this is going to be quite a bit of guesstimating as to where these squares or not squares would go. That'll work. Now this is where I'm going to have to stop and think carefully, because I said I was going to do them alternates, didn't I? I'm going to go this way. Don't know why I'm turning this round this way, I just am. So if I start with this one and do every other one, then I won't get myself in a pickle. Says she who just did get herself in a pickle. No problem, that's easily dealt with. Either in a moment with a white pen or digital cleanup. That's what I mean. Digital's great in many ways. So that's been an interesting week for me in terms of software and pushing myself. One added, or one unexpected bonus, or perhaps expected because I went, oh, of course, is that it's those new challenges which spur me on artistically and creatively. It freshens things up, it shakes things up a bit. And of late, I found myself sometimes thinking that art has got very stale for me. And in many ways it has. In other ways not. And it's when I hear other people talking about things like calligraphy, using favourite shapes, patterns, things that you like, suddenly things go, yeah, that's how I feel. And I guess I don't have the confidence to accept that for myself. I'll come back to that, no doubt, in a moment, because I'm wittering about art and things. So I've got these arches. It almost reminds me of a scissors arch in a Gothic church. There's a beautiful example of one in Wells in Somerset, Wells Cathedral in Somerset. But yeah, that's worked out interestingly because it's exactly the same pattern in a box but arranged in different ways, with the sort of like tufty bits going vertically side by side, horizontally side by side, and then alternating vertical horizontal along, and you get a whole different kind of patterning going on, which is interesting. I mean, for this one I could put the lines all round, but it would just look like a box with lots of lines going round, so I'm not doing that. So there we are with those. So I was going to put some botanicals in here. I'm looking at time, I've got half an hour. So let's have a look. Ooh. Just seeing ones I like, and I'm definitely going to put these in, which are like this. So, as frustrated as I was, that frustration soon turned around to a kind of, I guess, delight or excitement of something new, something challenging. New things to learn, new things to develop, and to push my art that bit further perhaps, particularly when it comes to creating, I suppose, fine art or illustration, or the more colourful examples of my art that I sometimes like to create. These are really lovely. Are they leaves? Are they seed pods? Are they weird plants? Lichen, I suppose. They could almost be moss when seen up, not lichen. Mosses, perhaps when they're seen up close, look a bit like this. And I'm going to tuck them behind each other and add some layers into this, because it's fun to do that. Makes for an interesting time when you come to colour or add pattern. So one thing I've discovered that I really do enjoy with Clip Studio Paint is the symmetry tool, the radial symmetry tool. It can work the same as in Autodesk Sketchbook Pro, but there's some differences that can be set as well, and they're going to be so much fun to play with. They really, really are. And anybody who knows me and knows my art creating mandalas, circular patterns and designs is something that I really enjoy doing. There we go. I don't mind things popping outside the line. What I'm going to do is, that line there is bugging me. So the closest white pen I have to hand is a white Posca pen lurking on my desk here, desk area. And magically that line that was bugging me has disappeared. What I am going to do, I think as well, I'm going to put some little leaves, tiny little leaves on these stems, just to add some interest here. Help to bring out those layers. And of course nobody says where these stems have to come from. This one I'm imagining is a branch of this one, but it just is behind. And it's quite fun that way, when you release yourself from the need of having to draw every single stem, or just let people, if they are that needing to know, work out that it may just be because these grow out from other stems, which is fine. And sometimes I'll check that the line I draw will go away, but will go back to a particular stem. Of course, although I draw them fairly straight curved, smooth curved, they could be wibbly and wobbly. But who knows? So that fills that space up almost nicely. I do want to add a couple of perhaps smaller ones. Wasn't quite sure how far up I needed that to go, so I drew round or completed it that way. And again I'll complete that one like that, which is fun. So that's that area filled up. And it fills up quite nicely, I think. Coloured in or with pattern shadow added, that will really come to life. And I may go back in and add some circles and things. I'm now beginning to think I need to fill these areas up a bit more, but we'll see. Perhaps not. Depends what I put here. This one. Oh gosh, what do I want to put here? I could take some of these motifs and echo them or mirror them here. Or I could put something new and different in. Don't know. I'm thinking, and when I think, my mouth stops working. It's my brain having a look through my book, so you can hear me flicking to see what I'd like. Oh, those would be fun. So some seed pods would be great here, but not the same shape perhaps as some others. I'm going to put some spiky bits on the top. There's going to be a circular kind of window in there, and then in there I'm going to stuff it full of seeds of all sizes. I'm not fussed on them being particularly circular. They'll be whatever shape they are as they're squashed in. That's a nicely interesting seed pod. So I'll put another one next to it. I like this pointy thing I'm doing at the top. It's quite fun, really. And I'm going to make that particular window into the inner workings of this seed pod. This bit behind to give some sense of layers here. Which is always good fun. When colouring, it gives opportunity for using different tones to bring out the depth. I'm not so good at that because I tend to just make things look dimensional, and your eye will work out that things are at a different depth relatively because of the layers and the partial nature of some of the parts of the particular motif or design. Yeah, that's another one. Yep, they're upside down compared to the words, but who says they can't be hanging seeds? Just can't see what they're hanging from. That works for me. Oh, big one there. Another big one there. Jam some in there. There you are. So they're quite fun. Variety is fun. I'm using that word fun way too much. But who says that art shouldn't be fun? Why do something if you don't enjoy it? And I do enjoy drawing. Oh, rambling me. I was talking about this Domestica course. I mentioned it earlier, called The Character Factory by Patricio Bettio, I think his name is. And I've enjoyed taking or looking at a couple of these Domestica videos or courses over the pandemic. It seemed the perfect opportunity to try different things, learn new skills perhaps, look at art differently, because you can never learn enough, never extend yourself enough in my book. If you don't, things become stale. Yes, there's something about having a style, a particular style or a particular voice that somebody says, yes, that's Angela Porter did that. Even though there may be many working in a similar kind of way. But if you just keep doing the same thing over and over, you own those particular skills, but you never really go outside the box, I think. And what the Domestica courses are doing is both giving me the opportunity to try new things. Did one with watercolour, which was fab, but watercolour isn't for me. I admire people who can use it. And I think things like this are beginning to show me just how valuable digital art is for me, because I can do things with colour that I find impossible or would find impossible with traditional media. And there are other things I can do perhaps that I would find difficult with traditional media, even though I try and use digital art packages like I'm using traditional media. Who knows? Is there one right way to do it? No. Like everything, it's how you make use of it and what you do with it. So this one anyway, I've only done the first couple of videos and it's absolutely fascinating. I'm sort of like, oh my gosh, you've given me permission. Or, you know, somebody else who draws by breaking things down into fairly simple shapes and then complicating things back up again a bit. Faces, heads, eyes, noses, shapes at the moment. Oh gosh, I don't do characters. But I'd like to do them my way and to get away from the idea that they have to be realistic. And to do that, I need that little bit of help and guidance, and these courses are perfect for it, I think. And so I've bought new sketchbooks for it. Sketchbooks, yes, because I bought a number of courses at the same time. The one is using a sketchbook daily, and the style of the sketchbook appeals. Because again, it's looking at somebody else's work, hearing them talk about their work. It's interesting, but it's sort of like it's those aha moments where somebody's put into words what perhaps I haven't managed to put into words for myself yet about art and myself. In fact, it's quite difficult for me to do voiceovers. Yes, I'm talking a lot, but I'm rambling as well. And as I ramble, I know that it's because I really haven't spent much time in the past year or so now having any kind of conversation.